episode. We are finally in the 20s, episode 20 here of Trusted Heard Live. I'm your host, Brian Fox. We have a great episode. I've become friends with this individual to my right, your left, however you're looking at it. He is Mr. Jack Shannon, the CEO and co-founder of an awesome little company called Recess. Jack, how's it going?
It's going good, Brian. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for virtually being on. This is going to be a lot of fun. Give people a couple moments to join and hit that refresh button on the page so they can see this video. If you are new to Trusted Heard Live and you are just catching us on episode 20, there are 19 other amazing episodes that you can catch on our Facebook group page or on YouTube. Just search Trusted Heard Live with event entrepreneurs. And I thought it'd be really cool to have this moment where, the event industry is taking a little pause and we see all these event company names out there, but we don't know anything about them. We don't know their story behind them, the entrepreneurs that started them, why. And we have this time. So thought it'd be really cool to hear that story. And again, today's with Recess, really like what they're doing the first time I met him. Gotten to know Jack pretty well here, and we'll get a little bit into his business. So shall we, Mr. Shannon?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, sounds good. Cool. Well, Jack, the first question of Trusted Heard Live is always nothing to do with events. First off, tell everybody watching right now, tomorrow, later, where you're coming from today. Where is Recess based? And if I didn't know anything about your Recess, how would you describe it to me?
Yeah, sure.
Wait, I just mixed up questions. Hold on. Time out. Where you're from and what you do outside of events. We'll get to the Recess question in a moment here.
Awesome. Yeah, we're based in Los Angeles, California, originally from Chicago, but been in LA for about 10 years now. When I'm not working on event-related things, I would say golfing. Not as much golfing right now, but in the past. So golfing, cooking with my wife, and watching movies. I was a big film buff growing up and big movie guy. So this time at home has allowed me to greatly pursue that other passion. All
right. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. Favorite dish you've made in the last few weeks? Do you have one?
Ooh, yeah, I think we made some fish tacos actually a couple nights ago that were delicious. So I'd probably go with fish tacos on that.
All right. And
not very fancy, not very complicated, but it was delicious.
I mean, I trust you. It's already what, 4:20, 4:19 over here in the Central Time Zone, Eastern Time Zone. They're already thinking about dinner. You probably right now they want a ton of fish tacos. So, also, you said you were a little bit of a movie buff. Enjoy movies. Do you have a favorite or a top amongst the top that you enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, the movie that made me like movies and get into movies, I saw it kind of when I was younger as a kid, was Usual Suspects. So that's always at the top of the list. I mean, it's not the most critically acclaimed movie of all time, but that was the one that the twist at the end. I won't spoil it for anyone, but yeah, it's a great flick if you haven't seen it.
There you go. So not right now. You guys got to wait probably like 30 minutes, but for tonight, go ahead and get yourself some fish tacos and go ahead and get that Usual Suspects on TV and call it a Jack Shannon night. So
there we go. There we go.
All right. And now we can get into it. And for those of you who are just joining, we're honored and it's awesome to have Jack Shannon here. He's the CEO and co-founder of Recess, a very, very cool company that right now they actually have some stuff going on in the event world. So we're going to get to that a little bit later on, but really neat platform. So Jack, if I didn't know anything about Recess, if I'm just meeting you today, how would you describe Recess to me?
Yeah, so we think about Recess as the easiest way to sponsor events. We do that. We're an online marketplace that connects brands, agencies, staffing agencies, experiential agencies, really anybody that's looking to connect with event organizers, and we streamline that sponsorship buying process. So enabling advertisers to plan, purchase, and coordinate with thousands of different event organizers all through a single platform. So you can see, put it up on the board here. It's kind of like a, an Airbnb style feed mixed with like a, kind of an Amazon checkout flow. So it enables you to specify exactly what markets, what types of events, what, a bunch of different parameters you can filter by. Can you serve beverage? Can you serve food? And makes it really easy to book multiple events or route an entire mobile tour all through one interface. And then we make all the coordination and advancing process and all the back and forth. We've just streamlined that into one tool. So we save, field marketers, agency marketers, 80 to 90% of the time they used to spend just manually coordinating a lot of those partnerships.
Yeah, and I have to be honest, coming from the agency world, if anybody's watching right now and looking at it and thinking, this is pretty cool, I'm not quite sure, like 80% of my time, 90% of my time saved, like this is a big part of routing, especially when you're looking at programs. And so to have an asset like this, instead of having to individually reach out to every one of these places a program might go, to have this central database of opportunities is so big. So kudos on you guys for designing this. Great. All right, let's back up the story a little bit, and then we'll get more into recess. What type of work were you doing before you got into the event world?
So I'm from Chicago. I went to school in Indiana, and I graduated and moved out to Los Angeles. I'd done some internships out in LA, and so I knew, I wanted to work in the film industry, or I thought I wanted to work in the film industry when I moved out, and got a chance to work at United Talent Agency. So I worked in the film department there for about a year and a half, and then moved over into the digital department, which was very much kind of the wild, wild west at the time. And while I was at UTA, I just started connected with my co-founder, and we threw our first concert back at Indiana, actually around the big Little 500 weekend there. Yeah. And that's kind of what kicked it off. So it was kind of a side hustle for about a year while I was still at the agency, working nights and weekends, and then made the leap full time after that.
Okay, so you do this Little 5 event, right? And previously you had never really gotten into events before, is that right?
Yeah, I had organized a film festival in college for IU. So I raised money and put it together and partnered with a group. And my co-founder had done something similar with a fundraising concert that he organized. And he had also worked at a local music venue on campus. So he kind of had a deeper event background, and I kind of went and worked at the agency for a year and kind of understood I learned about like the booking and the coordination and kind of how all that goes into it. And, sure. We came together when he was still back at school, and I was out in Los Angeles, and just thought it would be a fun side thing to do once a year, and kind of continue to snowball from there.
So did you have this moment where when you were doing this event around the Little 5 in Bloomington, Indiana, did you have this moment of like, maybe there's something more here? Or was it at that point, hey, this is great, we're doing a single event?
Yeah, the first one was, hey, that's great, we'll just do a single event and then maybe do it next year. And then when we came back the next year, and the first concert we booked was with, very dating ourselves, but with LMFAO and Mike Posner back in the day. And then the second show was Pretty Lights, and both of those sold out. They did great, did pretty well financially when I wasn't doing that well as a low paid assistant in a talent agency. So, at that point we were like, man, maybe I should, my co-founder was kind of encouraging me to leave and jump in full time. And so that's what we did after our third show. And I realized, hey, maybe there is a business here, and maybe we could take what we've done and kind of replicate it at other colleges and other places across the country. And, our vision at the time was we wanted to build the Live Nation of college campuses, and kind of start to build that out. So we learned very quickly that being a concert promoter is really risky and really tough. And, the second you step outside of a market we knew really well, our fourth show is with Avicii and at Arizona State, and we ended up losing a ton of money because we had overestimated the amount of tickets we were going to sell. So that was a rude awakening, that it's not as easy as just book the show and put the tickets on sale and they sell themselves. So
yeah, I can totally see that. So you have Avicii down at Arizona State. How far off of what you guys were doing at that moment was Recess to today?
It's actually like 2 iterations away from what it was then. So we started, we basically, this was like 2013. We realized we wanted to find a way to get the universities we were working with to start booking the concerts from us, so we didn't have the risk of the ticket sales, and then we would sell in corporate sponsors and partners on top of that, and that's how we kind of made our margin. So we stopped producing concerts and created a kind of like a touring South by Southwest on college campuses. So combined like a speaker series, a college Shark Tank, and a concert at the end of the night. And we ran that for about 2.5 years, had great partners, and sponsors like Amazon and Southwest Airlines and Microsoft. But while we were doing that, we had a couple of partners that wanted to work with college campuses, wanted to reach that audience, but our tour wasn't going to where they were focused on. It was Topshop at the time. They were like, this is super cool, but there's no Nordstrom where you're going. So that tour is not relevant to us. And so rather than let that revenue go, we ended up connecting them with some event organizers we had previously worked with, but weren't working with on that particular tour. And then did that for Kind Bar and Universal Pictures and a few other customers, and looked at the numbers and said, there's a much bigger opportunity here. Rather than continuing to produce our own events and sell sponsorship against our own events, let's solve this problem for all the other event organizers that are out there. We had trouble building up all these relationships and connecting with brands and figuring out who's the right person. And so it's a tool we would have liked to have had when we were event organizers. So, we decided to shut the tour portion down about 2017 and focus, kind of rebuild the company back up as a technology company.
I love that, because it really is, you guys were in the weeds, you were experiencing it firsthand, and you said there's an easier way to do this. So 2017, how long did it take you to, I guess, take all that knowledge, take all that experience, package it into a tech platform and launch that tech platform?
Yeah, I think it's been an ever evolving process. Like, I think V1, we probably, we did it manually to start. Like, we just started to acquire customers on both sides, and just kind of, those first 5 or 6 customers, we just kind of manually connected the dots together and facilitated those partnerships. And then I think, it was probably about 4 or 5 months later that we had, one of our friends had built similar like ad-based marketplaces before. And so connected with him, defined an MVP. We approached it from really trying to, build a tool that could help the buyers from an inventory standardization side of it. So talking with field marketers from Kind Bar and different agencies, and kind of understanding what are the things they typically want to buy with a sponsorship, and how can we break those down into standardized units so that we can make it really easy for those deals to facilitate without having to have a lot of back and forth and communication from both sides. So that took a bit of time to just kind of define what that process looks like, and then build the technology around it to support it.
Cool. Which makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm sure you had people who were voluntarily advising you, right? Whether it was field marketing managers at agencies or brands, because this is a big problem to them. It's the back and forth, just is very inefficient.
Yeah, that's really where we started, was just from a discovery phase. So, talking with all the colleges and universities. I mean, we had our own experience, but talking with other event organizers and kind of understanding how they operate and execute, coordinate logistics, like all of that. And then, yeah, we went back and talked to a bunch of our customers that we had, previously worked with as sponsors on our tour, like Red Bull and Kind Bar, and really tried to understand their needs and what they look for, and how, when they're choosing events or selecting events, like what do they look for? What's important? What's the metrics they want to know? What are the details they need to understand? So we heard things like, well, we'd really love to know up front if there's Coca-Cola or Pepsi exclusivities. We work with a lot of beverage partners, so that's always something that comes up. So if we didn't have to, get on a bunch of phone calls to discover that, we could just know instantly which ones are open to us, which ones are not. That would be really beneficial.
Nice. So where did the name Recess come from?
It's an interesting story. So we were originally trying to come up with the name. This was back in like 2013 for what we were calling like a music and ideas festival, this touring property that we were bringing to college campuses. So we were trying to think of like, is it music tech fest, tech music, like something that was like a combination of the two. And then because we were working in colleges, the concept of like recess being a break or a time throughout the day, something that everybody kind of remembers and has a positive association with. That didn't exist necessarily. There's not recess in college, and there's not recess in everyday life now, but we wanted to, we thought that was a unique name. So yeah, I was going through, I think I was like going through a drive-through to pick up some food, and I got so excited, like I called my co-founder Deuce, and I was like talking to him, and I just drove away without the food. Like I just like completely forgot, started driving, just left the food, was talking to Deuce and telling him all about it. So and then it was so it just, there's not a better story. It just kind of like just came to us.
Yeah. Well, you left hungry, but you did get a company name out of that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. How about the logo? Where did the logo come in from? Is there any significance in that symbol?
Yeah, it's we kind of look at it as, in some ways it's like a 10 by 10 tent kind of up at the top. So some and then, the bottom of it just kind of represents like a smiley face in some way too. It's a bit of a stretch. It's like an interesting symbol, There's also not a ton that goes into it, but yeah, that was kind of how we came up with it.
Nice. Good stuff. How about, so it sounds like you actually have a couple, and it's important, I guess, for everybody watching to understand, like, Recess is very much a marketplace. So you do need colleges and universities to supply these spaces, right? But you also need buyers. So whether it be experiential agencies or brands to purchase these spaces from these events. So this is, I guess, a few parts of this question. First, Jack, did you find in building your marketplace, was it easier to tap into the brands and agencies first, or was it easier for you to get buy-in from the universities?
Yeah, so we started with supply. It's a great question. Every marketplace has to solve the chicken or the egg issue. So we, just coming from that background, we initially started and just signed up probably 10 or 15 universities that we had previously worked with and we had good relationships with, and said, after even doing those first initial deals where we didn't even have a platform, we just kind of like connected both parties together and did it without software. And then, we went to the supply first and acquired some great schools and some great universities. And then, from there, flipped over and signed up, a few of our initial brand customers and partners, and just started to kind of build it from there. But I think, I think for us, like, I think a lot of event organizers, and this is where we were too, like, they are rarely sold out of all of their sponsorship inventory, and oftentimes are open and recognize that they can't be talking to everybody. Even the biggest companies in the world, it's just impossible to be knowing where every brand and every dollar that's out there that's looking for what you might have be available. So, a lot of the event organizers that we connect with, they kind of understand that they're really high dollar, they're really customized sponsorships. Like that's not right for us. And they're going to be the best at selling those directly to their partners and advertisers. But for, the 10 by 10s, the 10 by 20s, the stuff that is, fairly, standardized, where you have a lot of staffing agencies or mobile tours or things where the brand already knows what they want to do. They're just looking for the right audience and where they want to connect with. So that's kind of where, where we focused initially, was on the supply side.
And I would think, and for everyone who's listening or just joining in, we're here with the CEO and co-founder of Jack Shannon. They have this really cool platform called Recess that allows colleges and universities to have all of their events, whether it's clubs or anything on campus, have the ability to put up spaces, and brands and experiential marketing agencies can come in and book those spaces and make it a really seamless process on a single platform versus I need to find the person that's organizing this spring fling at Auburn University. How do I track them down? It makes it so easy. I think this is a pretty good sell for a college or university, right? I mean, am I wrong with that, Jack? Like, is there anything, like I would immediately jump in and go, yeah, I can put up this 10 by 10 space and it's $750 or $1,000. And if somebody books it, that's revenue that we probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise, right?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, signing up takes like 5-10 minutes max. You could upload all the events you have throughout the whole year and be exposed to, a bunch of different partners that are looking for those opportunities to get connected to. And now we've, I think it's for college event organizers. And, as we've started to expand even outside of that space, we're finding that event organizers in general, are especially as things will start to come back online in the event world, even more so, I think, the more revenue that they can tap into and just drive that additional yield, the event's already going to be happening. And so, it's kind of a win-win for all parties around. The brand, basically gets the same thing for no more cost. And no markup, or they're not paying any more. They're saving a bunch of time, and event organizers are getting to generate additional revenue as well.
Do you remember the first college or university that said, "Hey, Jack Shannon, hey, Recess, we think this is a great idea. We want to be first"?
Yeah. I think I know one of the first. I think was USA Network, and that was still one of our favorite programs. We worked directly. Their marketing team worked with us on that, but it was around the one of the launches for Mr. Robot, and so they tapped into, I think, 10 large, 10-15,000 person music festivals, and right before the artist took the stage, the lights cut out, and Mr. Robot hacked the jumbotron and played a special message, and then I think there was an on-site activation where you could get a branded glow wand that linked to episode 1 of that season, and one person that watched got $15,000 of their student debt erased, and that was kind of the tie-in with Mr. Robot and hacking and all of that. So it did some good. It was added value to the attendees. The brand got what they wanted out of it. So that's really the best kind of win-win situation all around. Is it's a engaging activation, the attendees are excited about it, and everybody kind of wins.
So speaking on hacking and really time hacking from the buyer side of the marketplace, I do just want to show this real quick, and if you want to touch on it, this is a picture slide of what field marketers can save in terms of effort and time with Recess, correct?
Yeah, this was an example we pulled anecdotally from one of our customers, Utz Boulder Canyon Chips. So looking at 3 events, without Recess, all the time they spent searching, discovering, looking for, identifying key events, the time spent back and forth communicating, negotiating back and forth, getting on phone calls, exchanging emails. The time it took their team to finalize the contracts with each individual partner, onboard that partner onto their payee system, and then coordinating all of the logistical back and forth. What's the COI information? What time's load in? all of that we've built into the tool. So yeah, for this partner, it represented 88% of the time saved that they were spent traditionally doing all that manually.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Very, very good. All right. So was there, I guess, as we know it today, Recess, the platform, was there like a client or a program that you guys thought, wow, this is pretty big. This is pretty awesome that they're using Recess as a platform?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think I guess I would say, probably working with Red Bull, because I think Red Bull is in some ways is I think wrote the book on a lot of this, and a lot of the people that are now leaders in the space. It's like in tech they have the PayPal mafia. We talk about it's like the Red Bull mafia. Like it seems like somebody everywhere is somehow connected to someone or worked at Red Bull or was here. So and they're known for having this incredibly robust college program too, and having built up that program. So I think they saw the value in that they still have they run that program and have the student brand ambassadors. That's not the right term, but their term for it. But they even found a pain point. They were having those people that they would hire year over year, and they were very involved, but those people staying connected with who the right stakeholder was at the campus, because those, it's more the changeover that's happening at the event organizer level.
Yeah.
From year, I mean, even every 6 months in terms of it's really hard to keep that continuity. Yeah. So they found a lot of value in it, in that either they could really see what all the opportunities were that were happening and not really lose that collective knowledge or those relationships. Even if they did a great job of it on their end, you were still having such high turnover and change from the event organizer side. So just being able to keep some consistency and some through line there, is kind of where they saw the value. So I think, getting the opportunity to work with them and, continuing to work with them is that was one where we're like that they're, we very much look at that group as a gold standard in this industry.
For sure. And I can't, it's actually one piece of your business I didn't even think about, where you do have this university and college environment and student organizers, right, who do come and go very frequently. And so that's even that pain point of, hey, I know Jack Shannon, he's down there at IU, and I can hit him up anytime. And then all of a sudden next fall comes along and I reach out to you and it's like, oh, Jack Shannon's not here. Who's the new person, right? So right. Really, really like that. Jack, what do you say we talk about? You sent me 2 pictures here. Let's talk about them. How about it?
Sure. Yeah. All right.
What do we got going on here? Who is this person?
So that's the Vineyard Vines whale. Yeah, this was a fun one. We worked with Vineyard Vines brand marketing team, and they came up with all this creative and everything that went into this. But they partnered with 6 events, and it was really in an effort to drive traffic to their retail stores. So they provided like their list of retail stores. We layered that over the top of all of the available events on our platform, and then identified key events that were within a walking distance to those retail stores. And they came in and did a great integration program. They actually didn't have a physical space even. They just brought in their whale mascot, who was just like a magnet for selfies that everybody wanted to take photos with and share it out. They went on stage and shot out branded merch out of a t-shirt cannon and did all kinds of fun stuff. And then they leveraged, in the background, you'll see like the video wall and the Jumbotron. So all of that was driving to a really basic mobile game, spin the wheel, anybody could play on their phone. And then depending on what prize they got, that was emailed out to them with the location of their local store, so they could go in and take advantage of that offer.
Very cool. All right, let's take a look at another one here. I really like this picture. Boom. What's going on here?
Yeah, so this was a campaign with Miller Coors, with one of their brands, Lion and Kugels. So this was actually, we've started to now move outside of just the university market as well, and helping brands target and identify the right events to partner with outside of the university space as well. So I think this one was at the Kingsford Big Apple Barbecue in New York, 100,000 plus attendees, and this was a really fun promotion with their brewy canoe, which was a canoe to hold your brews. It was basically like a floating koozie that would hold 2 Leinenkugels. And so if you shot the ping pong ball in the pool, you won a free brewy canoe. But even if you didn't, you could go buy 2 Leinenkugels at beers and also get the brewy canoe there. So that extra push, it helped them surpass, and they were the top selling. I forget what their category is, craft beer maybe, or whatever the category was within that event. But more importantly, I think that the interesting piece was the cost comparative to some of their other investments and some of the larger music festivals. This program was probably at a price point that was 1/10 to 1/20th of the sponsorship fee, with just as big of an audience, and ended up selling more beer than some of those. So I think it just kind of highlights, when you're able to kind of tap into that long tail and really tap into tons of available opportunities and events. It's not just the ultra kind of premium name brand festivals that everybody knows. The same 100,000 people were probably going to the Big Apple Barbecue as well, in a similar kind of age demo. So that's where we, there's a lot of value for brands, and also for agencies that are packaging up programs and selling those into their clients, to be able to kind of find these really value-driven opportunities. And it also means you can spend more money on the activation or the experience then. And
you actually got a really cool chart that you put together. So we're going to share it in a second. I do want to touch on this picture though one more time, is that, and you alluded to it, like when you're doing a big activation or you're at a large scale event, you don't need to go and spend $1 million on an event site. You don't have to go and spend $200,000 on an event site. This is like, as far as I can tell, it looks like a 10 by 20 tent with a backdrop, a blow-up pool. I can already tell that water was probably very hard to get to the event site. Typically not hoses around. So I'm sure that was a struggle somewhere. But those little canoes are probably blow-up canoes that, from a premium standpoint, you purchase 10, 20, 50,000 of them, and they come out to, I don't know, 10, 20, maybe 40 cents a piece. And this is beer pong. This is like, hey, who wouldn't like to do this out at a music festival? Take this ping pong ball and try to get it in. And like you said, I mean, something as easy as this can have such a big impact on brand identity and just being that. So
I love that, and that's what we always talk about too. Is I think the less you're spending on the activation, not that you don't want to have something that doesn't look good, but simple works. People love prize wheels. They love games. They love there was a line 30 people long for that entire event, waiting to try and throw the ping pong ball in the pool. It's like things you do as first grader bozo buckets type stuff. Right. It's like, you don't have to overcomplicate it. And by, keeping it still fun, but cost efficient and scalable, it just enables you to reach more people and ultimately, achieve a lower kind of cost per interaction at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And you tie it into the brand with the canoe. I can't tell you how many bars I've been to in Wisconsin that have the Leinenkugels, like full size canoe painted, hanging on their ceiling.
We can't even take advantage. They already had those canoes too. I mean, that was part of a different consumer, that was part of a different promotion they were doing. So they totally, I mean, all of that creatively was the client was Leinenkugels coming up with that at the end of the day. And this was just a great way we could take from what they were deploying in bars and other places and adapt it to this environment.
Cool. So this brings us up to this next slide, which I find really, really interesting about Recess. I'm going to go ahead and pop that on here. What are we looking at here, Jack?
Yeah, so I mean, this is just kind of highlighting an example similar to what we were just talking about with Miller Coors, and looking at, these are figures that we've kind of gathered from internal research and talking with different partners, but just looking at kind of the cost difference in a term that we've kind of coined experiential growth marketing, but that idea of deploying a scalable activation across tens, hundreds, possibly thousands of events, and just looking at how the unit economics of that break down comparatively to spending $1 million on a sponsorship fee that might cost $1 million for a real top tier festival. You can kind of back into the math on a cost per attendee basis, roughly $20. That's assuming even you're likely not actually interacting with all 100,000 attendees, but just for math's sake, kind of the difference in versus going to 100 events that maybe each cost $2,000. The cost difference that you can achieve there and bringing that down by an order of magnitude cheaper from that standpoint. So that's those are the types. I think there's a time and place for everything. Certainly, the biggest and the most premium festivals and events or brands producing their own events always are a part of that marketing mix. But we think launching campaigns where brands can go to more events for a lower price point with a more cost-effective activation package ultimately is just going to lead to a greater return if they're looking at what's my ROI around it, how many emails did I capture, how many people did I engage. If it's a customer who's really focused on ROI, which many of our customers are, very ROI focused, or they're app-based, companies that are looking at how many users do we acquire, how many downloads do we get. If that's the type of marketing, then it's just a dollar. You can put it up against Facebook advertising and cost per acquisition there. We've seen some campaigns where some of those brands have outperformed their Facebook cost per acquisition costs by leveraging this type of marketing. And I think you saw that with Lyft and Uber and many of those customers that really leveraged experiential early on in their growth cycles. When done correctly and done in a cost-efficient manner, it can be one of the most competitive channels, I think, from a customer acquisition standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, that graphic to me says it all, right? Like if I posed this question actually in the Trusted Herd group this a couple months ago. I asked everybody, I was like, if you had, I think it was like $20,000 or $30,000 and you were launching a brand, how much of that money would you dedicate to experiential marketing, right? I forget what the total amount was, but really what it came back down to is when you look at something like that, you have the opportunity to drop one big check on maybe a 1 or 2 or 3 day event, or you can go into a platform like Recess and you can see all of these events that you can leverage, different days of the week, different geographical regions, et cetera. So I've been in the Recess platform before. I really enjoyed the experience. Like, we're not talking about, hey, all 10 by 10 spaces in Recess, this marketplace, they're like $20,000. I mean, I saw events in the platform, Jack, and correct me if I'm wrong, $250, $500, $1,000. It's very transparent and it allows you to play in any kind of target demographic that you're looking for.
Totally, and we have events that are free that don't cost anything too. So it's everywhere from free to in the $20,000 range for some of the bigger, more premium opportunities. But a lot of the event organizers, especially in the collegiate space, they're more just interested if the brand is going to bring something that's going to add value to their audience. Are they going to bring a photo booth that might enhance it in some way? So I think they know the value of their worth, but certainly some of them are even underpricing those assets because they want brands coming in and bringing cool things, cool experiences. They're just going to make that event better for the attendees.
Totally. I know firsthand you cannot build a tech platform without a team. Team is probably very important to Recess. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think our we wouldn't be here without the whole team and all kind of parts of it. Our engineering team, led by Arbin and Bryce and Vitor and Lucas as well. Like they're, I think we've always kind of led with like, we try and do things manually first and kind of figure out what that looks like. And then, they're coming in and automating it and streamlining it and taking, this process and figuring out how to scale it with technology. So that's kind of the approach that we've taken, and we wouldn't, be able to do what we're doing, obviously, without the tools. So that's been invaluable. And, and then we have, Jeremy and Dustin and Rachel, who focus on growth and acquiring customers on both sides of the marketplace. So both buyers and suppliers. And, really just kind of, not even just acquisition, but getting to understand our customers' pain points on both sides, and relaying that information, back to the engineering team to be able to make those improvements and processes and everything like that. And then, my co-founder Deuce, who's incredible and keeps all of us together and on track. And certainly from the first event we threw with LMFAO to today, no way, we're partners and partners in crime and have been doing this for a while. So I think we complement each other really well and what we both focus on. So team is everything.
Awesome. I'm gonna get a couple more questions for you, and then I do want to talk about something that's currently happening with Recess, because I do think it's pretty significant, especially with the event world right now, and everybody is talking about virtual. So real quick, if anybody does have any questions for Jack, go ahead and drop it in that comment section. We'll get them out of there with some tough ones maybe, or easy ones. Depends how nice you're feeling. So Jack, is there anything that you would have told yourself, like the Jack Shannon doing that first event down at IU versus Jack Shannon today, that maybe would have accelerated your path a little bit quicker?
It's a good question. I think we've been on this road for 10 years now, so it's been a while. Yeah. And we've been through certainly our fair share of ups and downs. So I think one kind of lesson I've learned along the way is we don't get too excited about the highs and don't get too bummed about the lows anymore. Just trying to kind of keep it an even keel, and recognizing that something may be looking terrible, but you just got to kind of take it a day at a time, and we've kind of dug ourselves out of tough holes a couple of times, and at the same time, just because you get one big deal or one big customer, it's just go back to work the next day, and you guys got to keep going. So we certainly take the time to celebrate the wins, and but try not to dwell too hard on some of the downs as well.
Yeah, no, that's a really good answer. And I do think it coincides well with what you said a couple minutes ago about trying to figure it out manually before you try to figure it out using tech, right? Because that helps so much in that process.
Yeah, engineering time is more valuable than our time, definitely. Don't want to waste a minute of going down the wrong path and building something you shouldn't, because it takes that much more time to unpack that.
It does. Interesting time in the world right now. Anybody who's thinking about starting a business, whether that be in events or something else, would you have any tips or a word of wisdom that you like to tell other entrepreneurs who are just getting started?
I think it kind of ties back into our path of doing it manually first before building tech. Or I think if you can start to try and validate if there is a market or a buyer for what your product is before you have to invest too much time, money, resources into it. I think whether you're if you're starting a D2C company or you're creating a product, lots of people have recommended this. It's not my idea, but just go run some Facebook ads and try and sell some things and see if people click on them and if they buy them or if they're interested in them. Even if you just put up a landing page or something like that in order to generate and see if there's interest there. So I think, figuring that part out. Also, if you can prove that and validate it in some way, if it is a business that you need to raise capital for, it's just going to make that process that much easier to be able to say, oh, I've done it. Here's the results. I'm already in market. I've already gotten one customer or two customers. So I think, that part of it is I would say get started sooner and just get out there and try and start to do that. You don't need to have everything totally figured out and baked out on that behalf. And, I think on the, if it is a business that requires capital raising, I think if there's, from a fundraising perspective, there's a famous saying in a Pitbull quote or a Pitbull song, ask for money, get advice, ask for advice, get money twice, which a friend of ours, Corey Levy, I think is credited with having talked to Pitbull about that. But I think it's really true. Like, I think, when you need to raise money, I think going to investors and, asking for feedback, getting thoughts, kind of approaching it, or if there's a way where you could work with one of their portfolio companies and kind of show your value there and ask for the intro to the portfolio company rather than asking for funding right off the bat. It's a great way to start to build that relationship, and then they can just kind of see it firsthand how it works rather than you needing to tell them about it or send them a deck. Or decks are still important, but anybody raising capital, I think that's always, a great way to kind of think about it and approach it if it's possible.
Makes a ton of sense. Also, this is also, I think, the first Trusted Heard Live. It took 20 episodes to mention Pitbull. But he did make Trusted Heard Live. So there we go. So I do want to talk. I think there's been one or two questions. And before we get you out of there, got to hear on those. The event industry is in this weird moment right now. And typically on Trusted Heard Live, we don't like to talk about it. But I do think it's a little applicable to what's going on at Recess, because you do have this ability to do stuff other than live events in your platform. So do you want to talk or touch just a little bit on what you guys are doing right now? And
ultimately, I think we started this to make it easier for brands to connect with event organizers. Like, brands and agencies, at the end of the day, they want to reach those audiences. And we really believe, we were event organizers ourselves. So we very much believe in the ability for brands to leverage like those shared collective event experiences to achieve whatever that goal is. I grew up going to Chicago Bulls games, and whenever the Bulls scored 100 points, you got a free Dunkin' Donuts, free breakfast sandwich. And like, I always wanted to go use that breakfast. It was, it's because I won it with the Bulls together. And so I think, like, even though there aren't physically events right now, or there's very few in terms of those opportunities, we're seeing a lot of our customers that are looking at all these virtual events that are popping up. So, the online music festivals, the variety shows. I mean, esports has been doing this for a while now. Online fitness classes, online cooking shows. There's so much content and virtual events that are popping up, and it's still, I think, in a lot of ways, and what we're hearing from brands, they're like, we spent so much of our dollars on sports, music festivals, bars. We still need to combine our brand with consumption moments, especially in CPG. Like, they need, to try the product and to have that connection. So the virtual world is the one that we're all living in right now for the most part. And that is how a lot of these brands are identifying those events that align with their target audiences, and then figuring out how they can deploy campaigns across that. And so we've adapted our marketplace to start to be able to intake those virtual event opportunities, to kind of define what some of those standard, what's the 10 by 10 space of a virtual event? Like, what's something that can be standardized enough that it could allow for some flexibility, but scale across multiple events, and allow brands to kind of come up with a single creative, brands and agencies. What is that idea? What's that campaign? What do we want, all these different event organizers to be doing? And then where are we sending that audience? Is it going to our Amazon? Is it going to Instacart? Is it going to a delivery partner like Drizzly or 7Now or GoPuff? Is it going to our Instagram to run a contest or a giveaway? So there's almost there's infinite opportunities in terms of where you could form that partnership, and then where you could send that audience ultimately to drive the goal or objective that the brand is looking to do. So we in some ways it's opened up even more opportunities. But we also we're really looking forward to events coming back as well when it's safe to do so. I don't think you can replace, the handing someone a cold beverage at an event, or, that one-to-one engagement and interaction that comes with physical. But, for the time being, there's some really interesting opportunities in the virtual world event space.
Yeah, I think just the timing of where you guys are at as a platform is really intriguing to me, because while there is this pause in live events, you have this opportunity to build out that marketplace, which will only make Recess stronger when events do come back, because now you'll have both those avenues for brands to go down and vendors.
Yeah, it's definitely a whole new world, and I think opportunities for brands too, because everybody is they're at square one right now. So a lot of these events that are popping up have never existed before. There aren't sponsor exclusivities yet, and the brands that we're seeing, these events are popping up so quickly that you really need to be able to move quickly and move fast and kind of have a set idea of what the brand wants to do and be able to kind of scale that across multiple partners. So we definitely think it's a really interesting time, and it's certainly a buyer's market for the agencies and brands that want to be creating campaigns and want to be leveraging what we think is a really underpriced value for a lot of the events that we're seeing.
For sure. All right, we had this question. When event agencies or brands do book events at colleges or universities or elsewhere, does Recess do any facilitation of helping staff those events, or is that really on the brand or the buyer to find those sources?
Yeah, so I think probably 75% of our customers, they either have their own in-house field marketing team, or they're already working with a top staffing agency, experiential agency, and they've already got that part figured out. For the 25% maybe of our customers that come to us and they don't have an experiential agency, they don't have a staffing agency, they don't have those partners. We have a network of agency partners, staffing partners, that will basically just kind of feed into the pipeline and bring them in as a partner to help fulfill that campaign. We are not a staffing agency ourselves. We're not an experiential agency ourselves. So we don't do that work. Right now, we end up probably partnering with a handful of partners that we've worked with in the past, but we're developing out actually that part of our platform to be able to offer those opportunities to a wider selection of agencies as well, so that they have the opportunity to possibly get plugged in there. So that's it's not, that part of it is not really built into the tool or the technology yet. That's kind of where we're heading down the road. But kind of anecdotally, we refer people through, and we'll pass business off to partners. So anybody else that's out there, would be happy to connect as well and chat about that. We're always looking for great partners.
Recess as a company, what is the website that people can find you at?
Yeah, so we're Recess, RECESS.IS. So it's recess.is.
Got it.
The .com is very expensive.
I get real fancy with it, put up the scroller, get more confident with my video production skills. So if you are watching this right now and you do know experiential agencies or people at brands, send them the Recess name. These guys are amazing. It's a wonderful platform that really does improve efficiencies for people that are booking. So let's see here. Jack, anything we didn't necessarily talk about that you're like, Brian, I wish you brought up because I really wanted to talk about it?
I think we covered a lot of ground. I think you got it all. I clearly know what you're doing here. I like it. I appreciate you having me on, Brian. This is great.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. So this has been Jack Shannon, CEO and co-founder of Recess, a very, very awesome platform to marketplace to get spots at events, especially at colleges and universities. For those of you 21 in episode 22, Thursday and Friday, tomorrow and Friday, we have JBC Reach on, and then we have Guerrilla Roots Marketing. Had like over the last 48 hours, a handful of other agency owners reach out to me that want to do this. So what has started as 5 events, I think we're now over 30 booked, which has been really cool. But it is a lot of fun to hear the stories behind companies that you know or you've seen before, but you don't know how they started and the people behind them. So again, Jack, thank you so much for coming up and being episode number 20 of Trusted Herd Live.
It's a great number. I appreciate it.
Great number. All right. We'll get you out of here on this one. Have you been watching The Last Dance?
Of course. It's just, I wish they were spreading them out more so I could have more joyous Sundays. It's going to be over. Yeah, it's incredible. It's just 2-hour mind vacation. I can just travel back to the 90s and just relive my childhood. So it's awesome.
That is great. So everyone, if you haven't watched it, go ESPN, Last Dance. Go.
If you're not a Bulls fan, it's still awesome.
It still is, because everyone knows Michael Jordan growing up.
Yeah, definitely.
There you go. Well, thanks again, Jack, and we'll see everybody tomorrow. I think tomorrow is a 3:30 Central start time, so we will see you then.